This is not May. This is Sapphire. While they look similar and are counterpart characters, Sapphire shares nothing but a similar design with the cheerful coordinating girl from the anime and the protagonist from the games. The Sapphire of the Pokemon Adventures manga enters the story in a costume made of leaves, and when someone mistakes her for a Pokemon and attacks her, she tears the costume off, only to reveal that she's still wearing leaves underneath. Teeth like fangs, nails like claws, she's wild, untamed, and completely unbothered by any of it. A very masculine female protagonist. And this is what makes her one of the most fascinating characters in this entire manga. There's something she's buried, something she decided at some point she couldn't afford to keep. We don't find out what that is until the very end of the story, and when we do, it reframes everything. Pokemon Adventures Ruby and Sapphire follows two protagonists moving in completely opposite directions. Ruby, a feminine boy who wants to win every Pokemon contest in Hoenn, and Sapphire, a masculine girl who wants to defeat every gym leader in Hoenn. The two set up a competition to see who can be the first one to complete their goal in 80 days, and head off as mirrors of each other. Sapphire is a child of nature in the most literal sense, and she refuses to adopt the way of modern civilization. She lets her Pokemon run wild and free. She believes that strength is meant to be tested, that battles are how things are meant to work, and she has almost zero patience for anything that gets in the way of that. This immediately puts her in conflict with Ruby, who won't even let his Pokemon get a speck of dirt on them, who values refinement over everything, who when both their lives are in danger, still refuses to battle, which leaves Sapphire to save Ruby from a situation he got himself into, getting injured doing it and then waking up in clothes that the boy she just met made for her while she was unconscious. Most characters would have a strong reaction to that. Sapphire just melts, just for a moment. This wild, unsentimental girl looks at what Ruby made her and gets a bit emotional and cracks open just a bit. She puts the clothes on and she lets herself like it. Remember this moment because it's planting a seed that the entire story is quietly watering. Despite this, she still doesn't agree with Ruby's values, but Ruby's values are not the only thing she's in conflict with. Throughout the story, Sapphire and Naturalism are set against Team Aqua, a team that wants to expand the sea and return the world to its natural state for Pokemon, while Ruby and his aesthetic worldview are set against Team Magma, a team that wants to expand the land and advance civilization for humans. The manga quietly assigns each of them a villain that embodies their own values taken too far. But for Sapphire specifically, her conflict with Team Aqua is personal. Her first encounter with them is when Mr. Stone's cast form is stuck inside a fountain in Pebblebrook City, and Sapphire pulls it out and makes sure it's warm and alive before she even thinks about moving on. That's who she is. She never does the bare minimum when someone needs help, she always does the most that she can. But this moment of saving cast form doesn't last. Team Aqua shows up with the three soon-to-be admins Shirley, Matt, and Amber with their mission to kidnap the president of the Devon Corporation. Sapphire, with only Torchic and Aeron, goes head-to-head against Water-type Pokemon and steps in without hesitating. She carries Mr. Stone to safety through Petalburg Woods, and she holds her ground even when Shelly evolves her Lombre and Ludicolo mid-fight, and she uses Cast from Sunlight to neutralize their advantage. Protective and with strong instincts, she knows how to use a Pokemon's natural strengths to her advantage. Team Aqua still gets what they came for, but Mr. Stone is alive, and before he's taken off to recover, he hands Sapphire a letter addressed to his son Steven. He asks her to deliver it, and Sapphire says yes. And that letter, which she'll carry across the entire region, turns out to be one of the most important objects in the whole story. Sapphire's gym challenge is where you start to see the full picture and competence of who she is. At Rustboro, she passes Roxanne's written exam on pure instinct despite being barely able to read. Because why do you need written skills when you know everything anyways? She starts the battle on all fours like she herself is a Pokemon, and she gets overwhelmed when Roxanne's Nosepass is using Magnipul to lock Aeron in place. But then she reads the room, uses the breeze coming through the door to work out Nosepass's weakness, and flips the entire battle through sheer perception, and gets the Stone Badge. At Dewford, she takes one look at Brawley and takes one look at herself and makes a clear-eyed decision. She's not ready. He tells her that she needs to be ready by nightfall if she wants to challenge him, so she goes into Dewford Cave and trains. Her strategy is simple. Push Aeron and Torchic until both of them evolve, just like any other player playing the games would. Then come back with Pokemon he's never seen, and even when Brawley's Monkey evolves mid-battle, Sapphire's already predicted that it would based on her observation from it before. And just like that, she gets the Knuckle Badge. And then the moment the Brawley fight ends, she hears a rumbling in the cave and immediately starts moving towards it because she realizes that Ruby might be in danger. This is the pattern that defines the first half of her story. She is always on, always moving, always the first to charge towards whoever needs her help. And through all of it, she barely stops, barely breathes, and barely sits with herself for a moment. It looks like strength, and it is strength, but there's some weakness behind it as well. A weakness that she's hiding, but when she does take off, Brawly notices something before she even opens her mouth. She tries to hide how she feels about Ruby. She's flustered, defensive, immediately overcorrecting, and Brawly doesn't push it, but he gets it because he has a close friend too, so maybe he didn't understand it as well as we thought. But anyways, after realizing that Ruby is perfectly fine, she drags Ruby and heads off to find Steven. Night falls and they rest, and she throws Ruby onto the abandoned ship because he's a boy, and because she's a girl, she's sleeping on Wailord, and that's that. But her senses are sharp, sharper than almost anyone in this story. In the quiet, she picks up on someone being there. She assumes it's Ruby, but it isn't. It's Courtney and Tabitha of Team Magma. Sapphire hides and watches, but Courtney already knew she was there from before. Before Sapphire can react, Courtney hits it directly in the face with spicy berry juice from her gloves, aiming directly at her eyes. Sapphire fights back, and her Pokemon get overwhelmed and burned, and she can't open her eyes. But being blinded doesn't stop her. She navigates by smell, by sound, by everything her years of living close to nature gave her. She shields herself and she gets out, and her first thought, being blind with burned Pokemon and outclassed, is Ruby, because Tabitha is heading towards the ship. She gets there, drags an unconscious Ruby out, and the two of them figure it out together. No usable Pokemon between them except the mischievous Plusle and Minun that have been causing Ruby trouble all night. Sapphire uses them anyways and makes it work, and when the opening comes, still blind, still running on nothing but instinct and nerve, she uses Minun's last energy to supercharge Plusle and attacks Courtney, and rips the scanner that they were after from her hands. They escape, or at least they think they do. Courtney had already swapped in the outer casting. The real scanner was never in Sapphire's hands, but through all of it, outgunned, unseeing, protecting someone who didn't ask her to, Sapphire never once stopped to wonder whether this was too much. Every time the story puts Sapphire in an impossible situation, she finds a way through it, not because she's invincible, but because she never gives herself permission to be anything else. The armor always holds, until one day it doesn't. But before we get there, the manga has a lot more ones to show you about who Sapphire is and when she's at her best. Jumping ahead at Malva City, she doesn't get a conventional gym battle. She accidentally discovers a secret underground entrance, ends up in New Malva alongside Watson and the Trickmaster, an eccentric character most people wouldn't take seriously, but who plays an important role in the story, and the three of them deal with a rogue generator threatening the entire city. Watson offers her a badge just for helping. She refuses and she wants to earn it herself. She eventually does, teaming up with Watson's Electric and the Donphan she befriended underground to take the generator down properly, turning her underground city to an amusement park for kids to enjoy. Then there's Flannery. When Sapphire spots a cable car carrying Team Aqua's Matt and a captured Flannery up Mount Chimney, she jumps onto it mid-air without hesitating. She doesn't know Flannery like that, nor does she owe her anything. She's just a conventional hero here. So conventional that even when Matt floods the compartment with water, Sapphire holds her breath for I think over 4 minutes. That's truly protagonist level of powers right there. She pulls teeth from her Sharpedo mid-battle, uses them to crack the window open, defeats Matt, and frees Flannery. Then she apologizes for not stopping Team Aqua's plan on the mountain, as if what she just survived wasn't extraordinary. Sapphire in this stretch shows her amazing feats, but also again shows that she's incapable of letting herself simply just be. Every win immediately becomes the setup for the next thing she needs to fix, and this thing of fixing everything and not choosing to wait or slow down is a very masculine trait, but without the balance of the feminine trait of waiting, it can cause damage on a person or cause them to run away from their own issues. In fact, many times when people do this in real life, it's because they're running away from or choosing not to address something going on within themselves, or something else that's very important. After Sapphire saves Flannery, the two of them end up in a hot spring after Mount Chimney falls apart. A quiet moment, two girls sitting with a loss. This is also probably this manga's version of a fan service moment, which we didn't need at all, but whatever. Flannery challenges Sapphire right then and there. Without a gym, no kind of arena or anything, just the need to channel everything into a forward motion. That's the energy of their newfound friendship. Sapphire earns the Heat Badge and leaves with a genuine friend. At Fortree, something the manga hasn't given Sapphire before finally happens. She loses to Winona. Oh yeah, she skipped Norman's badge because 1, he's not around at the moment, but 2, in this universe, Norman and Wallace are both the strongest gym leaders of Hoenn, but it leans towards Norman, so that's kinda crazy. But anyways, Winona challenges her immediately on arrival, and Sapphire puts up a real fight, even gets Blaziken to evolve mid-battle, and still loses cleanly. I'm noticing a major trend of Pokemon evolving mid-battle when it comes to her, and them always losing when this happens. After this, she gets Winona to be her master and accepts training, and channels the loss into a reason to be better. Winona sees her enough to actively push for Sapphire to join the gym leader resistance against Team Aqua and Team Magma, because what she recognizes isn't just strength, it's reliability. And they're gonna need that because till this point, Team Aqua and Team Magma have been acting covertly, without the public really knowing. But now that things are ramping up, and all the gym leaders are aware of it, they need as many allies as possible to help take them on. And you need as many snacks as possible to maximize your enjoyment of the rest of this video. And that's more than possible with the help of today's sponsor, Tokyo Treats. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. This month, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. take you to Okinawa and Mount Fuji. Tokyo Treat is a fun and exclusive Japanese snack subscription box filled with limited edition Kit Kats, specialty flavored chips, seasonal treats, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Sakura Co. is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers. In each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and special Japanese tableware. This month's Tokyo Treat theme is Okinawa Snacking Paradise. With Tokyo Treats, we always show up the monthly Kit Kat on this channel. And this month, it's a strawberry cheese Kit Kats. It melted in the hot Canadian sun, but my god, it still tastes super delicious. One of the other snacks that I really enjoyed was the Shisha Sweet Cookie. It's got a fun animal packaging on it too. With Sakura Co, the theme of this box is discovering Mount Fuji. The Akio Grape Mini Pie was my favorite item from the roster, and all of this month's snacks pair perfectly well with this month's tea, the Mount Fuji Ryokocha, which I did happily drink while using this month's tableware item, the Mount Fuji Tengu, which I did love both the design and colors. Both boxes also come with booklets with allergen and dietary information as well as cultural facts. If you want to celebrate Japan, then you'll definitely get a box. Be sure to get your own box or get it as a gift for your loved ones so that they can experience Japan from the comfort of their own homes. Use code HybridHero to receive $5 off for your first Sakura Co box to my link or your first Tokyo Treat box to my other link. Now, back to the video. When Ruby and Wallace arrive at Fortress City, Ruby and Sapphire are left alone together while their masters Wallace and Winona deal with other things. Yeah, both their masters also have their own relationship going on, which if you want to see my video about the relationship, you can check it out right here. Or a bunch of my other videos on the Ruby and Sapphire manga after you subscribe, of course, because if you're enjoying this, you'll definitely enjoy my upcoming manga videos. At this point, Ruby and Sapphire are more comfortable with each other by now. There's a warmth that wasn't there before. Sapphire finds herself flustered in a way she doesn't know what to do with. She even admits this out loud, defensively, that she notices things that are cute and has crushes sometimes, which immediately embarrasses her because saying it out loud makes it real. But before she can take that anywhere, an earthquake hits. Wild Grumpig swarmed them, and Ruby, who has spent his entire story pretending that he can't battle, takes out all of them in seconds, precisely without hesitation. Sapphire sees it and she genuinely feels betrayed, because he's been lying to her about this whole time. She's angry, but not angry in the way she's been angry at Ruby before. This is the feeling of realizing that someone you've been trusting wasn't showing you all of themselves. She decides to keep her anger aside though and asks him to join the fight to save Hoenn, to which he straight up says no, says he only cares about contests and says that he'll be going back to Johto, his home region, once this is over. And Sapphire, who has spent this entire journey being strong and charging forward and never showing weakness, breaks. Not loudly, but she throws off the clothes Ruby made her, changes back into her outfit with leaves, and tells him that she never wants to see his face again, because she thought, despite everything, that deep down he was a good person. And while Ruby is a good person, in that moment she's not sure, because Sapphire is always on go 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 mode. She doesn't process that moment the way most people would. She doesn't sit with it, she doesn't break it down somewhere private. She does what she always does. She just keeps moving forward. And while she may not admit it, she is suffering a bit of heartbreak here with her feelings towards Ruby, which is why the reaction is so deep for her. She takes every bit of that heartbreak, every bit of the anger and disappointment and hurt, and she channels it directly into a rematch against Winona, and she wins on pure emotion, on everything she couldn't say to Ruby out loud. The badge she earns in that battle might be the most personally earned one in the entire journey. When Ruby eventually does return after going through his own realizations about the person that he wants to be, Sapphire and the other gym leaders have already engaged in their fight against Team Aqua and Team Magma, and are trying to stop the two teams from awakening the Hoenn legendaries and destroying Hoenn. But he knows he can't just see Sapphire just like that, so he shows up with something. New outfits, one for him and one made specifically for Sapphire. The same gesture from the very beginning of the story. A boy who notices what she needs before she says it. Even the line is the same, that it will look great on her. And Sapphire, who threw his last set of clothes into the dirt, who changed back into leaves just to prove a point, takes it quietly. She just lets the walls come down, bit by bit, the same way it came down the first time. That detail matters because the clothes were never really about the clothes. They were always about whether Sapphire would let herself receive something soft, whether she'd actually let herself be vulnerable, even a little. She said yes at the beginning of the story without fully understanding what she was saying yes to, and she says yes again here, knowing exactly what it means this time. Well, I guess there was never really an opportunity to say yes or no the first time, but you know, it was a yes in her heart. Ruby then finds a way to get the two alone, even in a world-ending disaster, as he states that only two people can go down the sea floor with Relicanth, and extends his hand out to Sapphire, and the two hold hands as they dive into Hoenn's depths, and they manage to fight together again. again. They manage to find the leaders of Team Aqua and Team Magma, Archie and Maxi, and push them back, but the red and blue orbs that control Groudon and Kyogre have gone too deep. They've merged into the leaders' bodies, and Ruby and Sapphire can't retrieve them. In an effort to push the orbs out of Archie and Maxi, they launch an attack that sends them flying. This is when Sapphire meets Steven for the first time, as Steven and the other Elite Four members have arrived to help save the day as well. And she's finally able to deliver the letter that Steven's father entrusted her to her all those chapters back. And it's this letter that gets Steven to unlock and command the Reggies. But before Sapphire can settle things and just be with Steven, the blast from the battle pulls her in. This blast transports Sapphire and Ruby to Mirage Island, an island where time works differently here. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but for the purpose of our heroes, Juan, Tate, and Liza, the final gym leaders of the Hoenn region, take the opportunity to train Ruby and Sapphire to control the red and blue orbs as they're now the wielders of them. The orbs are in their bodies. The training begins immediately as time is currently 7 times slower where they are than outside of Mirage Island. Steven and the Elite Four are able to contain the situation outside, with the legendaries thanks to Sapphire giving them access to the Reggie trio. One has the kids work together as a team, learning to complement each other's gaps rather than just fighting them independently. For two people who spent the entire story moving in opposite directions, learning to move as one is its own kind of reckoning. There's a moment where Juan tests their intuition. Which of them has a stronger read on things, the better instinct? Sapphire wins, and of course she does. But what's interesting is that Ruby already knows that she would. He knows her better than she realizes by this point. They also reunite with Plusle Minot, who helped them strengthen the teamwork as well. Ruby is concerned about the blue orb being with Sapphire and speaks to Juan about his concerns as she's asleep. But Sapphire was awake for all of it, hearing Ruby speak about her with care. And as they discuss things for a bit, Sapphire can't help but notice Ruby's hair, something he's been covering with his hat this whole time. To which Ruby immediately covers it up. They commence with their training, and once it's complete, Sapphire gets her hands on both the Moss Deep and Sweetopolis City gym badges, meaning that no one's balance badge is all that she's missing now. The two finally leave Mirage Island and head back to the midst of the battle, but before they can push further, Sapphire stops Ruby because there's something she's been trying to tell him for almost this entire journey, and at this point, she genuinely doesn't know if she'll ever get another chance. She tells Ruby that she loves him, not platonically, but romantically, and she immediately starts apologizing because this is Sapphire we're talking about. Being direct in battle is easy for her, being direct about this is completely different. Ruby already said that he plans on going back to Johto after all this, and Groudon and Kyogre are still destroying Hoenn. Neither of them even knows if they're going to survive what comes next, so for once, Sapphire doesn't charge ahead and bury what she's feeling underneath another battle. She actually just says it because she knows that she has to. And then she tells Ruby about somebody else, that she once had feelings for another boy that she met when she was much younger. She can't remember his name anymore and she can barely remember his face, but she remembers the time they spent together. She remembers him protecting her when the Salamence attacked them, and she remembers being so terrified by the way he fought that she ended up looking at him like he was the monster, which she was regretful for because her weakness ended up causing this boy immense hurt. And upon hearing this, Ruby immediately realizes who she's talking about. It was him. That one encounter was the reason both these characters became who they are. Ruby was once a boy who loved battling, but after seeing how badly he frightened Sapphire, he buried that part of himself and devoted his life to beauty instead. Sapphire was once a timid and traditionally feminine little girl, but after believing that her weakness had hurt someone who was trying to protect her, she buried that side of herself and decided that she would never be weak again. They both spent years running away from the exact parts of themselves that the other person eventually brought back out. Ruby reminded Sapphire that she could like beautiful clothes, that she could be embarrassed, that she could fall in love and let someone take care of her without losing her independence or suddenly becoming weak. And Sapphire forced Ruby to battle again, to protect people openly and to stop pretending that strength had no place in the person he wanted to become. They thought they were complete opposites, but in reality, they had shaped each other before the story had even begun. But after this, it's not sunshine and rainbows. In fact, Ruby does something here that we would never expect. Ruby steals the blue orb from Sapphire and pushes her into Wallace's flying car and locks her inside so that she can't follow him. He shows her his scar from the Salamence so that Sapphire knows that Ruby is the same boy from earlier, and that he's finally accepted that he loves her. And his first decision after doing this is to leave her behind and put himself in danger alone. Ruby's trying to protect Sapphire, but he's doing it by taking the choice away from her. And of course, Sapphire does not stay in that car. And how does she escape? With the help of her friend, the Trick Master. Yeah, all of her friends across this journey have come through for her in some way in this manga. It's pretty crazy. As Ruby partners up with Courtney for this final fight, Sapphire fights her way out and makes it back to Ruby. Because if this entire story has established anything, it's that Sapphire will always show up when someone she loves is in danger. By the time she reaches him, Groudon and Kyogre have been stopped, but Courtney, Steven, and Norman have fallen. Winona has been captured and Wallace has been defeated. and Archie and Maxie have returned for one final attack. Ruby is completely overwhelmed by everything he has lost, but Sapphire is there, and this time, the two of them don't separate. They fight Archie and Maxie together. Ruby and Sapphire use their entire teams alongside their plus level Minun and beat the evil team leaders. Plus level Minun combine their electricity and stop Archie and Maxie when they manage to escape with the red and blue orbs. But through the biggest Deus Ex Machina in Pokemon Adventures history, Ruby manages to change certain events so that all characters who perish somehow come back to life. It's definitely a convenient ending and one that is absolutely insane, but emotionally, it gives the story the ending that these characters earned. Hoenn is restored and Sapphire and Ruby get to finish the challenges they started 80 days earlier. Ruby wins the final contest and Sapphire finally faces Norman and earns their final gym badge, and the bet ends in a tie. But the most important part is the day on which it ends. Their journey began on Ruby's birthday, and Sapphire chose 80 days because the final day will be her birthday. So after saving the entire Hoenn region, nearly losing each other several times, and unknowingly reuniting with someone that they have both been searching for since childhood, they run back home together on Sapphire's birthday. Sapphire spent the entire story proving she didn't need anything. Didn't need to rest, didn't need to be saved, didn't need to slow down, didn't need to say what she was feeling out loud, and she proved it over and over in ways that were genuinely extraordinary. But the most courageous thing she did in this entire manga wasn't the amazing feats and achievements she had. It was choosing to accept the strength of being open and vulnerable, to pick up what she buried when she was a child, the ability to let someone in without immediately turning into a reason to fight harder. And the story she's in is quietly insistent that those things were never weaknesses to begin with, that the girl who could melt and the girl who could fight were always the same person. She never had to choose between them, and she never had to reject her feminine side for her masculine side to thrive either. For her to be at her best, she just had to find her way back to both. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all my members for supporting me on this channel. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you over on the next video, alright? Later.